Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. So a white supremacist recently shot and killed 10 people in Buffalo, New York. He shot a total of 13 people. 2 of the people that he shot were white. The rest of them were black. And this man deliberately targeted black people. He went to Buffalo because that was the closest area to him that had a large black population. And he deliberately targeted and killed black people. He has been arrested. He has pled not guilty to first-degree murder. And the police were able to arrest him without him being injured. You know, the police talked him into surrendering. He took off his tactical gear and they proceeded to arrest him. This man, while he was committing these crimes, he was streaming live on Twitch, and he was motivated by a racist theory called replacement theory. And according to news reports, this is spelled out in a manifesto that he posted. I will provide links to the articles, and I will provide links to articles dealing with this replacement theory. But under this theory, he basically believes that Jews are plotting to replace white people with non-white people through immigration, interracial marriage, and actual and eventual violence. So that's what motivated this man to commit these acts. And there are a few things that I want to talk about dealing with this. You know, first of all, this action is a reflection of mainstream extremism in this country. This is not some isolated incidents where you could just point your hand at the obvious racists. The theory that motivated this guy is a theory that motivates a lot of these right-wing Republicans. A lot of them use these talking points. And as one of these articles points out, it talks about how Tucker Carlson, you know, a prominent Fox News personality, actually touts a lot of these talking points from these white supremacists. You know, these talking points about replacement theory and all that kind of stuff. He pushes that ideology and promotes it. You got a lot of these other right-wing Republicans that promote this anti-immigrant sentiment that's rooted in this fear of being replaced. And we know about that Charlottesville riot that took place a few years ago where those white supremacists were actually chanting the slogan, "Jews will not replace us." That's what they were chanting during that demonstration. And you will recall that former President Donald Trump referred to those people as some very fine people. You know, he defended those people during that Charlottesville incident that took place, that Charlottesville riot. He defended those white supremacists. So we can't look at this particular incident in isolation. It is a reflection of hatred in this country. It is a reflection of a lot of these right-wing Republicans that are elected. And they are, through their rhetoric, they're helping to promote this type of development that we see. And one thing that has to be pointed out is that under Trump, they actually took away resources from investigating these types of groups. At the same time, these were the same types of groups that were giving Trump his support. Trump was endorsed by the alt-right. Trump was endorsed by KKK members. And it's no coincidence that people like Trump run on this anti-replacement theory type of ideology. They run on, you know, this idea that they're being, you know, that white people are being replaced. That's what that whole slogan, "Make America Great Again," is all about. So my core point is we can't view this in isolation. This is a part of a long history in America. And you will hear people say this doesn't reflect America. It doesn't reflect America's values and all that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, it does reflect America. It reflects mainstream conservative ideology. It reflects the history of this country, a history of white supremacist terrorism inflicted against black people and other people. So yeah, that's one of the points that has to be pointed out about this. Another point is this. And it's kind of connected to what I was saying about the Trump administration not prioritizing going after these white supremacist groups. And that's this, for the longest time, this country has had a long history of suppressing black activists. And actually, under Trump, they began a plan to go after what they call black identity extremists. And while they were targeting black identity extremists, they decided not to emphasize these white supremacists who are actually the ones committing terror. And according to many reports, they have said that these white supremacist groups are the greatest threat, in terms of internal terrorist threats in this country. But yet, it wasn't a priority. But when it comes to black organizations trying to fight to improve the lives of black people, this government cracks down on those types of groups. This government has destroyed those organizations, killed the leaders, arrested leaders, but in the meanwhile, they allow groups like the KKK and all these other extremist groups to flourish and thrive. And that's why you have all of these incidents of hate-based terrorism in this country. We remember Dylan Roof, how he went into that church and shot and killed innocent black people who were simply praying. And we know of other examples in recent history where you had white supremacists commit acts of terrorism. But they don't go after them, these terrorist groups, with the same energy that they go after black people who are simply trying to improve the conditions under which black people live. And we all know about like these RICO cases that have been announced in the news against rap artists and all that kind of stuff. And I don't have any sympathy for gangsters or anything like that. But why doesn't the government have that same kind of energy, as T.I. pointed out, when it comes to white supremacist groups? So blood is not only on the hands of that terrorist, blood is on the hands of the mainstream politicians who pander to these people that believe in this replacement ideology. Blood is on the hands of the federal government that didn't do enough, didn't do its due diligence to root out these types of organizations, to monitor these organizations. If they can monitor black people simply for trying to have their rights and be empowered, they need to monitor these groups that are an actual threat to not only to black people and other so-called people of color. They're a threat to the very United States government. So they need to go after them with that same kind of energy. The other thing is this, this is another prime example of why we need comprehensive gun control in this country, but there is no political will to actually implement gun control in this country. If these elected officials can sit back and watch children being massacred, we remember like a few years ago, I think it was when Obama was in the White House, you had killers kill a large number of children, go into an elementary school, shoot children, massacre children, but that wasn't enough to get those politicians to enact comprehensive gun control laws. And then you had situations where members of Congress have been victims of gun violence, but still those same members of Congress, Congress as an institution failed to implement gun control laws. These things will repeatedly happen over and over again as long as those punkified politicians in Congress don't have the balls or the guts to pass real gun control laws. We're going to see more of this, unfortunately, because they don't have a will to act. If gun control laws were implemented, there's no way that an 18-year-old would have had those access to those kinds of weapons. I'm really interested in learning how this 18-year-old, got access to tactical gear and heavy arms. I want to know about that. The other thing is this, like this whole situation, just makes me reflect on, the possibility of like a race war in this country. You know, these white supremacists are armed, you know, they are well armed and well trained. You know, this particular 18-year-old, he had the kind of gear on that would protect him from gunfire. You know, one of the security guards tried to stop him, tried to fire shots at him. But because he had that protective gear on, he was able to take those shots, and then he proceeded to shoot and kill that security guard. And when I hear about these types of incidents, I'm just like wondering, like, if there was a real race war in this country, would Black people be prepared? Would we be able to defend ourselves? And unfortunately, the answer to that is no. You know, most Black people don't know how to, many Black people don't know how to use weapons. Even these so-called thugs and gangsters and stuff like that, they don't even know how to use weapons properly and stuff like that. Half of the time they're missing people and they're hitting innocent bystanders. So yeah, we would be in a horrible situation if there was some kind of armed conflict in this country. And we need to be prepared. We need to learn how to use weapons. And there's nothing extreme about that. There's nothing fanatical about that. There's nothing crazy about that. That is simply common sense. It is common sense for Black people to be prepared to defend themselves, just like any other nation, any other group of people. We need to be prepared to defend ourselves and to defend our communities. We have to be. We can no longer afford to be sitting ducks. We can no longer afford to be lambs headed towards the slaughter. We need to arm ourselves and defend ourselves like any other group of people do. Again, there's nothing radical about that. There's nothing crazy about that. That is a question of survival. That's a question of common sense. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is just like the role of the police and how the police handled this situation. I mentioned the security guard tried to shoot and kill this person because they were, but the person had on protective gear. But the police eventually were able to arrest this man without him being harmed at all, after he massacred all these people. And we saw the same situation with Dylan Roof. And if these mass murderers can be arrested peacefully without a hair on their body being harmed, without a bruise or a cut or a little scrape, why is it that Black people so often don't have that same kind of benefit? You had a brother, Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old Black boy, playing in a park with a toy gun. Within seconds of the police arriving on the scene, they shoot and kill that young brother. And we have all these other incidents of police brutality. Why don't we have that same kind of mercy when police encounter us? How is it that a innocent 12-year-old boy can be slaughtered while somebody that just killed 10 people can be taken in peacefully without incident? So those are some things to reflect on. And the last point I want to talk about is social media. Here, in this particular situation, as I mentioned before, this killer was actually streaming live while he was committing these acts of barbarism and savagery, while he was committing this massacre. And Twitch, they allowed him to stream, and they say that they cut off the stream after 2 minutes, but why was he even able to stream at all? Like, why aren't they monitoring their website to prevent that kind of stuff from happening, to prevent people from streaming that kind of content? They should have shut that down immediately, because what they're doing is they are allowing themselves to be used as a forum to promote terrorism. That's what's happening. There's no reason why he should have been able to stream at all. They should have shut that down immediately. And why didn't Twitch immediately report the incident to the police? Now, what I've read so far, I don't see any information about Twitch reporting this incident to the police. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see any information about that. And it would be a damn shame if Twitch allowed themselves to be used in that kind of way and did not report anything to the police. And again, this is another example of just like social media and like the problems with social media. Like on social media, for instance, they will shut down, Black content creators who speak out against racism, but they will allow racist content to flourish on their platforms, unfortunately. They will allow something like this to stream for a couple of minutes. An act of terrorism, but let a Black man share his opinions about something that's controversial, they'll shut him down overnight. And that speaks to the hypocrisy of the society. The hypocrisy that I spoke about, involving law enforcement investigating and destroying organizations is another reminder of hypocrisy in the society. But yeah, those are my thoughts, man. Those are my thoughts about this. And the last point that I want to share is this. And that's the point about the need for coalitions and the need for us not to take on the same mentality as our oppressor. I hear a lot of Black people promoting a lot of these anti-Semitic viewpoints and stuff like that, basically regurgitating right-wing racist talking points from people like this person who committed these terrorist acts. They don't even realize that they are running with the talking points of their enemy. They are literally running with the talking points of white supremacists. Again, I mentioned that he believed in this replacement theory that basically promotes this idea that Jews want to replace white people with non-white people through these different means, through immigration policy and interracial marriage and all that kind of stuff. And, unfortunately, you will hear, a lot of so-called woke people saying all these anti-Semitic things against Jews. You will hear these quote-unquote woke people espousing all this anti-immigration rhetoric and stuff like that, running with talking points used by these white supremacists. And while they're uniting, in rhetoric, they are literally uniting in rhetoric with white supremacists when they need to be forming alliances with the people that are targeted by white supremacists as well. They need to form alliances with progressive Jews. They need to form alliances with immigrants and other groups of people that are targeted by these white supremacists. They need to form alliances with Muslims who are also targeted by these white supremacists. And these alliances need to be built on mutual respect and mutuality, period, where we support certain causes and they support our causes as well. I don't believe in one-sided alliances before anybody comes here and tries to, make some comments about that. But those are my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Please rate, comment, subscribe, like the video, share the video, and hit that notification bell so that you'll know when I post new content. Peace and blessings. Have a blessed day.